something that I heard here this evening. It is, with the business of the replacement police dog, is it in the currently proposed budget that there is money to replace the dog, or in the previous budget?
It's in this budget, correct, Dennis?
There is money in the proposed budget for 2 dogs.
Okay.
And there was, at the time that the budget was drafted and brought to council, there wasn't necessarily an issue about whether a dog needed to be replaced or not.
Okay. So the proposed budget includes money for 2 dogs. If that budget is passed and approved and ultimately goes into effect, we will be taxed to, the taxpayers of the town will provide the money to buy the 2 dogs, to replace the 2 dogs. Is that correct? This will be done with tax money.
Of course.
That's in the budget.
Okay. And this is something that was requested by the administration, because the administration has the authority to propose a budget, not the council. Is that correct? And yet that same administration which proposes to tax us to fund these 2 police dogs, which requested the money to do that, has not made up its mind whether it's going to spend that money for that purpose. Is that correct?
Sounds right.
How many other items are in the budget that have been requested that we will be taxed for, and that no decision has been made whether the money is going to be spent for that specific purpose? I'd like an answer to that before you finally approve the budget.
Could you get him to answer that?
I'll leave it for now, but I will return to this when the budget comes up for a final vote.
Wait a minute, Mr. Petronis, Council President Allen's going to.
Well, you could ask
Jason,
Dennis.
would you please?
Ask Dennis to respond, Mr.
Dennis, would you respond to Mr. Petronis, please?
I'm not sure I understand his specific question.
The specific question, I think, is a simple one. Administration has requested money for certain purposes. That money will come in the form of taxes that we have to pay, and yet administration appears not to have decided whether they're actually going to spend that money for the purpose that they requested it for. So we are going to be paying taxes, and then you will decide whether or not the money you've already collected from us will be spent or not spent, or spent for that purpose or spent for some other purpose.
I mean, that is in the nature of all government budgets, because government budgets are spending plans, and as you go throughout the year, plans sometimes change. Sometimes they change because one makes different choices, and sometimes they change because the circumstances change. So you actually have to plan for an entire year, knowing that throughout the year some of the very minute things may not happen, but other things may be necessary. So you end up coming to council to spend money in other expenses in a little bit different way than the other expenses that you thought that you planned for. So there are adjustments made throughout the entire year.
It sounds like this budget may have a few more adjustments and a few more uncertainties than I would be comfortable being taxed for. I wonder if other people feel that way.
Any other comments? Seeing none. Council member comments?
I have a couple of questions for Andy.
Sure.
We attended a Joint Insurance Fund workshop last month, where the topic was discrimination, and pregnancy was part of it. After which I asked administration, Mr. Gonzalez, if we were sure that we're not in violation of the law with their stance of not allowing the officer back to work. He told me he was positive that, you know, we're well within our rights. But you're our attorney, Andy, and I would appreciate it if you would get an opinion on that for us as well, because I had recently heard there was a case with the prison on base where a similar situation, and that officer won. And I really would, I just hate all the negativity going on, and it continues month after month, week after week, day after day. And, you know, we voted for her to come back. And then, of course, we have people who just think council can pass an ordinance correcting light duty. Are we able to pass an ordinance that controls any kind of policy on things like that?
I don't think so.
You don't think so, or no?
No.
No.
I was being,
I know.
you know, I was being.
But,
So-
you know, I'm just so tired of being beaten up all the time that we can do things that we do not have the authority to do.
And that's not a mayor
Well,
issue, that's a state.
That's a state issue,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't, you know, we've been told, we'll tell you, just like I just saw not too long ago, there was a body found, or remains found. Does council get notified? No. Were we notified about change in the chaplain situation? No, please forgive me, I've got a trauma migraine from my neck, so I might lose my train of thought. But, and we've been told many times, we'll tell you what we think you need to know when you need to know it. If there's some way we can pass ordinances to resolve some of those issues, that would be wonderful. But it's not happening. You know, but I'm just tired of hearing, well, the council could do something about it if they really wanted to. Well, then, as our attorney, I want you to tell us or find ways for us to do things, if it's possible, for us to do things to put a stop to the nonsense between administration and the police department. And, you know, we cannot legislate making the mayor attend a meeting. He's chosen not to come anymore. I really think we need to turn the chair all the way around. That's his choice. We can't tell him he has to be here. And I know it's difficult to understand. I don't believe it's the intent of the form of government. I still believe the intent is for individuals to work together in what's best for the township. That's obviously not happening, and I would hope some of the council members that were not sure or possibly believed it was just Mrs. Skull and Mrs. Stinney who were complaining or had issues. I hope that they have seen through the last few months of meetings that sure as heck Mrs. Skull doesn't want these issues. I just want us all to work together for what's best for the residents of the township. That's not happening. And that's sad. It's sad for all of us. And with that, thanks for everybody for coming out and having a nice, safe Easter holiday.
Thank you, Ms. Skull. Ms. Jackson?
Just wanted to wish everybody, as Ms. Skull said, a safe holiday. Thank everybody for coming out for their open comments. Appreciate it. And just everybody be safe.
Thank you. Ms. Stinney?
Yeah, sure. Speaking of not working together, I was embarrassed when I sat here and Mr. Tam said there was something on the webpage. And like I said, I don't go on the webpage all day long. I don't even know when they put this up, when it went out, who there's no communication. No one said, is there a question you may have that you would want to put on the webpage or whatever the situation was. I'm just really embarrassed with that. And of course, administration can do whatever they want. It's called facts. True, false, facts. I guess that's what it is. A fact sheet or something like that? Jason, was it fact sheet or something like that it went out? I don't know. Huh? This thing that went out.
On the website. Yeah, I forgot what the word that Mr. Tam used.
Okay. But anyway.
I'll look it up when I get home, if I get rid of my headache.
Anyway, I never seen that. Just like I think it's important that somebody could have noticed out there when we changed the time of the, thank you. When we changed the time for the public works, that someone would have thought it not robbery or decency enough to send someone out there right away, since we put it on the web page, and to make that sign, make the people aware of the new change of the sign. But again, it's not working together. I've never seen anything like it. I'm going to tell you right now. I served 13 years on the Board of Education, and I'm telling you, we not always agree together, but we got along together. We sat down and I have never seen anything like this government that I have shared in the last 4 years. I'm embarrassed. They may go home and go to sleep, but I don't. And just like, let me address this one call that made my decision. I don't have to receive 50 calls. One call is enough for me. If it's a rumored, one call. I don't have to make my decision on whether to vote yes or no or whatever. One call is enough. And then guess what? Voila! It's before council would happen, and nobody seems to know. But I'm glad I took my stand on that one call, and God knows how many calls or texts I have, on the chaplain here. I just thought it was an annual thing. I don't know. I always hear wonderful things about chaplain class from the patrol, and I don't go out, for the record, talking to patrolmen. I want you to know that. My family's associated, my neighbors are associated, my friends are associated with police, so I just want you all to know that, because I know it's against the rules and regulations. I never forget when poor Miss Trueblood went out there and asked for some information from the what was that, the CFO, and right away that letter came, don't you out that door unless you get approval to talk to that CFO. And she was just trying to get some information so that we could make a sound decision on our auditor. That's all she was saying. I've never seen anything like it. I'm sorry. I apologize to the public that this what's going on here now is heartbreaking. It most certainly, it truly is. I look back there at Justin. I watch him almost grow up. I look back there at our chief of police. My God, I watched his children grow up. I look back there and heard what the call was actually. It wasn't what Mr. Glass said, basically, but it was something similar to that. So I made my decision on a similar, but again, like I said, and I mentioned, that I will take that vote when it's introduced. If it wasn't going to be introduced, then guess what? I would have took the vote. But I wanted to just say that. And Mr. Tam, let me just say to you, you have been historian for the county, for the township. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your information, just like I constantly thank Ms. Waters for the kind words and the things that she says to council. And I always say when I was on the Board of Education, to the parents, listen, I hear you come up and you badger the teachers, but for every negative, you have to have a positive. Isn't that how cars jumped? I don't know. Negative and positive? I don't know. Mr. Petronas, don't laugh at me, because I never jumped a car before. But a negative and a positive, they kind of go together. And listen, it's tearing me apart to hear my community like this. I I go to church and I hear poor Jason, him and I, we stand up there, we talk, and he comes to go to church, not to listen to my mouth. It hurts me. I walk out the door. I hear residents in Presidential Lakes, what about my roads? They're tore all apart. And before I close out, you see those other seats over there that are empty? I said to Council President, bless his heart, I said, Jason, now, how are the people going to know what the engineers are doing now and what's happening here? Well, you haven't seen the, whatever you call the UEZ coordinator. I ain't seen him yet, here yet. So I said to Jason, I said, how's the public going to know what's going on? I understand we're saving a couple dollars by not having them here, but we get a report every Friday. We get a report on the roads. You guys don't. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what's happening down there. You heard, hold your head up a minute. Rick, you heard Rick talk about the football field down here. You don't know what's going on. We know. We get the report and so on and so forth. So how's the public going to know now? How you going to know? Now I have a question to you. How will you know? How will you know what the engineers are doing? Unless maybe they'll put a fact sheet together like they did with this mess and put it back there and say, okay, this is what's going on with the engineer and what's happening in the township and the road repairs and that sort of thing like that. Maybe they'll do that. I don't know. Maybe what I'm saying will fall on deaf ears. But, again, how would you know? And Jason said, you know, I'll check it out. You know, we'll find out. Bless his heart. I mean, he's got so much on his chest, and I know he does, because my heart hurts as well. And just like Miss Waters said, we are trying to do the best that we can. But when you're locked out in the door and you have no key to get in, you're done. You can't get in. So thank you for coming out, and I thank you for your kind words. I really, truly do. And do have a blessed weekend. Pastor Glass, I hope that, God forbid, nothing happens. We walk out here today, tomorrow, with any of our police officers, that we don't have anyone to jump in and do something, because you just never know what's going on in this country now. And I tell you, I don't even like to watch the news or listen to it anymore. I don't. I hurt. So I don't know what this is all about. I really don't. I'm glad I got a call. I could have got a half a call. If I got a half a call and it was a concern that the resident had a concern with a half a call, I would have listened. And then took my vote after I investigated it later on. So I'll be quiet, because my solicitor's talking, telling me to keep quiet. Hush up, Andy. Go ahead. Now, have a nice one.
Literally 2 words. That was it.
What were they?
Andy, it's okay. Jason, it's all right.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for the residents coming out, and to Ms. Waters for these beautiful ribbons that represent a lot.
Yeah.
And especially the adoption ribbon project, because it means a lot. I want to say also thank you, Rick Prickett, thank you very much for the words that you said. And I did not, at the time, I don't think it's unethical, because it's something that I believed in several years ago, that there should be more chaplains to help and assist. But, you know, definitely Reverend Glass holds my higher standards. I believe every clergy in this town knows that the work he's done and he continues to do. And if anything with this would have been as an assistant to someone that's been in place for so long. And I just thank you for what you've done and how you represent this town with the police chaplain. So therefore, I don't think it was unethical for me to introduce this ordinance, because I believe in it. But I believe in it as so many could come forth, but under the guidance of knowing what the rules, regulations would be, not just anyone that just says, I'm a clergy, or I'm a clergy at a hospital, I'm a clergy for hospice. It is something very specific. So that's why I believe in it and I introduce it, because down the road, I believe in it. I really believe that more clergies could come out and assist. And that's how I stand. So I thank you. Thank you for those words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for your comments. To Ms. Waters, I thank you for your prayers. Thank you for the remarks that you read. When the council members were going through their comments, I actually read back through it. Very, very powerful, very meaningful words. In reading back through it, the two sentences that stood out the most to me were to ask you to be blessed so that in turn you bring blessings to Pemberton Township. And the second one was, no matter what you decide, you are likely to be criticized. Dennis, I just want to reiterate again, if possible, please get us that answer. What would be a reason why we wouldn't go out and get a K-9 for this budget? So if you remember to get me that response, or get us that response sometime this week. And that's all my comments. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Need a second?